If you have to
Recording in progress.
if you have to deliver a speech, how are you planning to start your presentation? You can unmute and answer. If you don't have idea, let's watch a small video so then you can get an idea about a powerful opening. Let me share my screen. Um, so you look at this speaker and try to see what are the, the things that he brings to get the attraction from the audience.
The Power of Words, Muhammad Qutani.
What? All you all think smoking kills? Let me tell you something. Do you know that the amount of people dying from diabetes are 3 times as many people dying from smoking? Yet if I pulled a Snicker bar, nobody would say anything. Do you know that the leading cause of lung cancer is not actually a cigarette? It's your DNA. You could smoke for years and nothing will ever happen to you. This whole war against smoking is just to restrict the farming of tobacco. Mr.
So that was his opening. And let me share the video just to show the opening part.
You and I are not very different from this flower. Just like this flower is unique, you are unique. All of us has something special that makes us as beautiful. Do you know what makes you special? Now, the answer to that can be a little difficult to find because sometimes life has a cruel way of picking out your petals, breaking you in two, and throwing you into the trash. And when you're broken, it's very difficult.
So that was his opening. Now, do you have any idea about the elements of a successful opening?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Liana.
you can speak. It's okay. What are the elements of a successful opening as you see? Anything special you saw in those two speech openings?
Get audience attention using different techniques.
Yes, thank you. So they try to get the attention from the audience by we say by using a prop. So that's that's uh, that's another way. And any other thing you saw?
Facial expressions.
Yes, they had different facial expressions. So let's go one by one. Uh, so you need to get the audience attention, and listeners' attention need to be refocus away from any any distractions and towards the speaker. So a good beginning draws the audience attention to the speaker and the presentation. And we need to introduce the topic. So the beginning of a speech should indicate what speaker will be talking about and why the audience should be interested in it. When listeners understand the topic and how they will benefit by listening to the speech, they will immediately pay the close attention. And you need to establish a rapport. The audience will be more receptive to the speaker and the message if the speaker appears friendly and interested in them and shows personal interest in the subject. Effective ways to establish rapport with the audience is to smile, show enthusiasm, make eye contact. So with those, you can establish a rapport. And take less than 10% of the entire speech time. The majority of the time should be spent to focus on the body of the speech. So because of that, for your to have a successful opening, you need to take something around 10%. Let's say if it is uh, 5-minute speech, so you will be getting 300 seconds, and you can spend the first 30 seconds for your opening part. And then let's discuss about techniques for an attractive or successful opening. First thing is you need to state the importance of the topic. So you need to tell your listeners why the topic is important for them. And if you can see that the first video we watch, that person with a cigarette, he emphasized the opening statement of his speech with his speech, the power of words. Second point is making a startling statement. What do you mean by a startling statement? Any answers? Startling means a surprising statement. So you can startle your listeners with an intriguing statement that will compel them to listen further. So if you can remember the first video I showed you, he said smoking kills. So likewise, if you can get a surprising statement at the beginning, you can grab the attention from the audience. Third way is arouse suspense or curiosity. So it was clearly visible in that both videos I show. In the first video, the first person was trying to having a cigarette, and he's asking why. So when he's going to have a cigarette, then the audience think what he's going to do next. So that's what you need to build in the presentation to grab the attention. And also in that second video, that speaker is bringing a flower with him, and then after seeing his gestures, the audience wondering what he's going to do next. So likewise, you need to think creatively and bring that curiosity. Another way to have a successful opening is to tell a story or an anecdote. So you can start with the amusing tale, dramatic story, or anecdote which arouse the interest of the audience. But you need to make sure that your story is connected with what you are going to speak or present. And also, if you can personalize it no, then there's a possibility to have a more successful opening than you sharing a known story. So when you share a story or an anecdote, try to have your own story. So that will be more attention grabbing because we like to hear more personal stories than someone else's story. As for an example, you uh, if you are speaking about gravity, now we know what happened to Isaac Newton. Instead of saying that story, try to get the attention by sharing a personal story. So likewise, you can get the attention from the audience. Ask a rhetorical question. What do you mean by rhetorical? Rhetorical questions. Any guesses? Rhetorical questions are uh, just like a normal question, but here you don't need an answer. You don't expect an answer. So, but you are asking this to make a point rather than getting an answer. As for an example, you can ask, can birds fly? Can fish swim? Something like that. You don't expect an answer, but you let the audience to think about that question rather than getting an answer. So you can ask one or two questions that relate to your speech. And another way of making a successful opening is by beginning with a quotation. You may know there are famous quotes by Mother Teresa, Bill Gates, Nelson Mandela. So, and at the beginning, you can share a quote made by them in order to get the attention from the audience. Now we discussed about the opening, and we are moving to that body part of the presentation. So how are you going to make, how are you going to draft the body of your presentation? If you can remember, last week we did mind map for your university. So how are you going to draft your uh, presentation? What are the main steps that you follow? Any answers? When you're drafting the body of your presentation, first you need to arrange them in order uh, in a way that will most effectively present your message. So if it is about your university, you can divide into sections like history, and then the current situation, faculties, likewise as we discussed in last week, and also to support your presentation, you need to bring some statistics data. As an example, if it is about your university, you can share the number of students and started date, those kind of information. Testimonials, so the quotes or the opinions from your lecturers, from students. So you can bring those into the body of your uh, presentation about your campus. And example, stories, anecdotes, you can bring some stories about your uh, campus, like if there's anything special happened there. So likewise, you can draft the body after presentation by using those techniques. What do you mean by visual aid? As the fourth point, you can bring visual aid. So what do you mean by a visual aid? Any answers?
Using charts, video clips to presentation.
Yes, thank you for that answer. So this could be the diagrams, charts, pictures, or uh, anything which you're going to display visually. So you can use visual aids to support your presentation. And facts. So facts which are relevant to the main point that you are making, you can bring facts. So this is how by using these techniques, you can draft a good presentation for the middle part of the presentation, which is the body of the presentation. So then let's discuss about how to, what are the techniques that we can use to have a better ending. Criteria for successful conclusions. Any idea? So we
Give brief summary about our presentation.
yes, thank you. Summary about the presentation. So that's the first point, uh, which you mentioned. Achieve a sense of closure. So the conclusion is important to the success of any speech. Because of a poor closing, and excellent speech will lose its effectiveness. And also people remember the last thing they hear more than the part of your speech. As for an example, uh, when you go back home, in this when I end the lecture today, uh, you will remember how did I stop, rather than the way or the topics that I discussed at the beginning. So people remember the last thing that they hear, uh, other than the any part of your presentation. So if you want the people to remember your presentation, then you need to have a successful conclusion, and uh, for a successful conclusion, you need to achieve a sense of closure, which means people uh, people need and expect a closure actually. So an effective closing signals to the audience that your speech is ending, and it reminds them to pay the attention to your final words. So in that you can say uh, you can mention So a good ending makes last impression on your audience. And what's your message? After listening to your presentation or the speech, what's the message that audience can take from you? So therefore, try to make an impact in your presentation. And here also take less than 5 to 10% of the entire speech time for the closing. Now let's discuss about the closing techniques. And this part is also similar with the opening techniques. So here also you can use a quote from famous people, and you can tell a story or an anecdote. And most importantly, you need to call for an action, which means after listening what the audience supposed to do, and you can ask a rhetorically question, just like a technique which we use in the opening. And also you can refer to the beginning of the speech, so the audience can see there's a link between your opening body and closure. Summarize your main points. So you can repeat the main points presented in the body of your speech, and repetition reinforces your message and enhances your audience learning. Now, uh, how to end it with an impact? You can do several things here. You can memorize your conclusion, which means a memorized, polished ending enables you to end confidently and add impact to your speech. And you need to end on time. So don't go beyond the allocated time. It will lose the attention and the engagement with the audience, and they will feel boring. So make sure you end on time. And don't try to add any new points at the end. So as for an example, you may forget to mention a point in the body of your speech, then don't try to go back to that point at the end. So rather than doing it, you can try to have an effective conclusion in your presentation. So let's watch a speech, a sample speech which has a good opening body and then ending. So we can discuss after watching it the good points that you saw in that speech. So therefore, carefully watch this video, and after watching it, we can discuss and share the good points that you have observed. So this is the speech, and carefully have a look about the opening, body, and ending, and the techniques we discussed.
You and I are not very different from this flower. Just like this flower is unique, you are unique. All of us has something special that makes us as beautiful. Do you know what makes you special? Now, the answer to that can be a little difficult to find because sometimes life has a cruel way of picking out your petals, breaking you in two, and throwing you into the trash. And when you're broken, it's very difficult to feel special. Mr. Contest Chair, my fellow flowers, I can remember the first time I broke. I was 17 years old. I had already flunked high school and managed to get myself arrested. Now, I wasn't afraid of the cops, but there was one person I was very afraid of, and that was my mama. Raise your hand if you have an emotional mother. Let me see. Put them all together, you get my mom. I can hear her scream outside the police station. Even the cops saw a tear coming down her face. Now, I've seen my mama cry before, but mothers cry 3 types of tears. Tears of joy, tears of sorrow, and tears of shame. And when a son sees a mother cry tears of shame, that's a life-changing moment. She looked at me and said, "Son, I want you to be a better man." That night, when I drove home, my dad was waiting for me at home. Now, my dad is a cool dad. Raise your hand if you have a cool dad. Put them all together, you get my dad. My dad came up to me and said, son, it's okay. Start working immediately. And I said, okay. So my dad took me to meet one of his friends called Sam. Now, Sam was an accountant who had an accounting firm and had generously decided to make me his personal assistant. And there he was. He did the most amazing thing. He said, son, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. If you decide to work with me, I can help you find that something. And I was like, whoa, that's the first time in my whole life somebody has ever told they see something in me. And I started working for Sam. And every day after work, he used to tell me stories about the world, about history, about culture, about philosophy. And it was much more interesting than what I learned in school. And I discovered I can dream. And I started dreaming, ladies and gentlemen. After 1 year, I went back into high school, completed my exams, and went into college. After successfully completing college, I found a great but I like your mother. So my dad introduced me to this strange club that had a strange name with strange people talking. On the first meeting, they told me to do something called a tabletop. I aced it. But while I was speaking, I see a strange man seated in the back row. Humble, simple. The unfailing quality of kindness in his eyes. As soon as I finished, he walked up to me, looked me dead straight in the eye, and said, son, I see something in you. But I don't know what it is. If you come here twice a month, maybe we can find that something. And ladies and gentlemen, I discovered I could speak, and I love speaking. And that led me to become a teacher. I know what it's like to not have enough money in your bank account. I know what it's like to worry when the bills start coming in. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, I wake up my beautiful wife and I ask her, honey, why did you marry me? She says, I saw something in you. But I still don't know what it is. Ladies and gentlemen, today I'm a dreamer, I'm a speaker, and I learned the unfailing quality were able to reach into the trash can and make me whole again. If it was up to me, I would have never been able to do that. And this is why if you have great people in your life, no matter how broke, how lost, or how broken you become, they can piece you back together. Ladies and gentlemen, when I look at you, I see something in you. But I don't know what it is. Over to you.
So, what are your learnings? How we can have a, so what did you see in that representation, and how he used the opening, body, and the conclusion with the points we discussed? Did he use any quotations? At the opening or at the end? Did he make any startling statements? These are the points that we discuss about uh, how to have a successful opening. And did he arouse the curiosity of the audience? How many stories did he use? He used many stories about some incidents about his mother, and when he went to father, and when he went to Uncle Sam, and the things he discussed with his wife. So I hope you all will remember those techniques for successful opening, because from the next day onwards, there's an assignment for you, your first assignment. And so today, let's move to the exercise for the practical session. What you need to do is you need to choose any topic that would you like, and deliver a speech from 2 to 3 minutes. So last Tuesday you shared a story, and if you would like, you can repeat the same story in your breakout room, or else you can share something new, and when you come back, I'll introduce you to the first assignment. So let me read the breakout rooms first, and when you return, we can discuss about the first assessment. These breakout rooms are randomly created. You can just go there and